Last time we had a look at the role-playing, the champions of justice, but this time around we're getting ready for a dance with the devil. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam, and whether it's tricking the devil into a beneficial deal or having the Tooth Fairy be your patron, I'm here to help you with everything. Ah yes, before we begin, we have of course arrived at the bit where in a very natural and smooth way, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like what you see. You see, completely smooth. You even barely noticed this little advertisement was there. It's all a dream. Deals with the devil, violin competitions with Satan, selling your soul for eternal power. All the good reasons to become a warlock. That and Eldritch Blast, of course, but this is a role-playing video, so we don't talk about mechanical goodness. As per usual with these RP videos, I am here to do two things. First, we solidify what aspects you really need to think about to really flesh out a nice traditional warlock, and then afterwards I smash the concept to smithereens and offer you some alternate takes on being a warlock, taking the class roleplay to some places it was never meant to go, but we're going there anyway. But let's start with the normal warlock, if normal is a word you could use for any chap who thinks it's a bright idea to make a deal with an evil entity. When designing your warlock, your deal really does define everything that you need to think about for your warlock roleplay. It's such an all-defining thing for your class that it does pose some basic questions which you really need an answer to in order to make your warlock a warlock and not just a cheap excuse to have Eldritch Blast. Stop talking about Eldritch Blast, Sam. Yes, I know, I'll get to it. So, the first question you should ask yourself, why did your character make a pact? What drove your bloke or bird so far that they wanted to talk to a literal devil and agree to their terms? Was it power, love, survival? I don't know, you should, it's your warlock. Of course, equally important is going to be whom you are making this deal with. The classic stereotype is of course that big deal with the devil, and boy do I love that idea. But 5e warlocks have so many other options. You could be making your deal with celestials, archfays, ancient evils, genies soon, liches. The demon world is your oyster and your soul is theirs. Who did you make your deal with is the question to ask, because it is going to have a bit of an impact on the next question. What was in the deal? What are the conditions? You gain 20 levels of eternal power. In exchange for what exactly? What favor do you have to do for the other side? Is it just a I have to hand over my soul at the end of my life deal? What do you have to do to please your inner and outer demon? And what did they do for you apart from giving you the weirdest spellcasting system in the book? Does your patron require you to bring some form of regular tribute? Maybe your infernal patron likes the occasional batch of freshly harvested souls if they're a devil, or they just want you to burn the occasional orphanage if you're a fiend. If you have an Archfey patron, they might give you a mission of which you don't see the point, but it serves a long-term goal of the Fae, or it just serves their latest whim. Talk to your DM about your patron and any possible wishes they might have. It offers great RP value and the occasional plot hook as well. Another fun fact to consider is whether or not your character openly flaunts their power source and even their actual powers. How does the world around you react to warlocks in general? Are you safer off pretending you're some type of sorcerer who happens to specialize in a lot of fiery magic? Or are you using your patron's name as a type of calling card, or to intimidate and persuade those that you meet? And as always, when talking about spellcasters, I want you to visualize your spells. It makes sense that if you're following some devil or fiend, that your spells have a nice fiery touch to them, but having a celestial or fey patron might add a bit of an otherworldly sparkle to your spellcasting. These fun small details add immersion and can draw yourselves and others deeper into the game, and that is exactly what your demon masters want. I mean, that's how you contribute to a great atmosphere. If you would go for a Hexblade Warlock, also give some thought to your weapon. What does it look like? It's a pretty specific piece of weaponry and as important to you as the pact is to other Warlocks, so put some effort into it. Is it a gift from a certain patron? Is it a sentient weapon with its own plans? Do you know about them? Does it always look like a weapon? Or is it perhaps a ring that you can transform into a mighty blade at your will? Think about it. Now that we're done with thinking about what makes up a nice traditional Warlock, let's do what I do best, ripping class stereotypes to pieces. So our first different Warlock is going to keep quite a few stereotypes intact, but we're moving away from the Warlock's spot in the party as contender for the title of Greatest Edgelord. We'll leave that title to the Rogues as long as they don't get their own RP video. I remember the first article on D&D Beyond that talked about how you could play a Warlock, blah blah blah, started with a snippet of lore showing us a student who wants to become a wizard, but they can't succeed, but luckily there's a devil in the candle fire that wants to offer him some help. What if we don't want to become a wizard? What if your character's lifelong dream is becoming a successful singer or musician, but you have the vocal qualities of nails scratching on a chalkboard? Luckily, your local devil has a deal for you in return for your soul and the occasional favor, to be stipulated at a later point. He will help you become the best known bard on this plane of existence. Whatever could go wrong. So we're taking our Fiend Warlock here, symbolizing the old-fashioned deal with the devil. I've said it before, I love it. So the first Warlock is going to be symbolizing this. But instead of playing him like Captain Dark and Broody, you're going to play him like a bard. Super outgoing, hordes of fame, possibly fortune if your devil allows you to have money, and no one knows about that silly old contract you signed and the fire that occasionally shoots out from your hands. If anything, it's you creating your own special effects for your shows. To your fans, you're just a bard with some minor magical powers. Spells that focus on illusions and bewitching people are a natural fit for our Bardlock. As is, of course, the occasional Burny Burn spell. I mean, you still have a fiery devil as your patron. It should show now and then. Your Singlock might be an adventurer because he needs to fulfill those favors for his patron, or his fame is gone. Or because it's a nice way to provide your devilish friend with a fresh supply of souls and keep them happy. Demon sacrifices by day, crazy popular singer by night. It can be fun to pretend you're a bard for the first part of a one-shot or of a new campaign. Flaunt your music, flaunt your charisma, make people's jaws drop when instead of causing vicious mockery you start shooting Eldritch Blast like there's no tomorrow. There go all their hopes of having a support character at the table. Obviously, the Warlock himself doesn't gain a proficiency in persuasion or, performance? There we are, performance, that's what I was looking for, not persuasion. Can be easily solved by taking the entertainer background. Entertainer background gives you acrobatics and performance and a long list of all types of possible entertainers you could be. A singer is in there. I really like the idea of having this famous celebrity really being a fiend warlock that has to scurry around to fulfill favors for their devil friend. Our next warlock technically might not even know that he's a warlock. He's a bit of an oopsie warlock. Normally, actively making a pact is the starting point of any successful warlock career. Like our Bardlock who wants to be famous, like the traditional warlock who wants to gain power, they actively make a deal with a patron to gain something. But what if your warlock character was too close to a ritual? Maybe even being used as a sacrifice for a ritual that got interrupted or went wrong, or he was used as a bargaining chip in another deal with a certain entity, and thus came under the influence of a patron but isn't really part of a major deal. The Great Old One is a great patron for this. Maybe your character was going to be sacrificed to a Great Old One, and halfway through the ritual, an adventuring party came and disrupted it, destroyed all the warlocks trying to sacrifice you, but some form of connection between you and your great old patron was already forged, thus granting you a set of new powers. It is often said that great old patrons don't always realize who has sworn a pact to them. It's also less about making a deal to get something usually, and swearing your power to an ancient being in the wonderful hopes that when the being erupts and destroys the entire world, you either love it or B, hope to gain something from it. But not this chap though. He was going to be sacrificed, ritual got interrupted, but he got linked to a great old one, and slowly he's going to realize what's going on and that he has gained new powers, and through the course of the levels he might learn things about where his powers are coming from. It creates some wonderful roleplay opportunities as the character tries to find their place in the world with their newfound powers, looking a bit like a really nice superhero story with a minor detail that Cthulhu is the source of your power. Some nice spells to flesh out, such an Oopsie Warlock, might be something like Arms of Hadar. Your character is fighting, is under attack, and suddenly giant tentacles sprout from his body in defense. A defense mechanism triggered by his link to his great old patron. Maybe he is able to instill fear in those around him without even trying really hard. He just does it because it kind of feels like a natural flow. So again, it's a good warlock to put in a lot of control spell, and everything that looks like a black mass or like darkness or like a lot of tentacles is good stuff for this warlock. For our next concept, we're having a look at our patron. Up until now, I've taken some really serious patrons. Cthulhu deals with the devil, all the traditional stuff. But what if your patron is something that is not perceived as a serious threat by other people? What if your patron is the Tooth Fairy? Everybody thinks she's a sweet old innocent fairy lady that comes and replaces teeth with coins in children's beds. But in reality, she's some chaotic neutral archfey with a serious fascination for all creatures' teeth. Also, she might not look like a cute old lady at all. Some blood could be spilled here. Maybe the ones that are replacing teeth for coins are other Tooth Fairy warlocks who created this myth to be able to easily collect teeth without having to punch people all the time. Maybe they're fairy subordinates of the Tooth Fairy who do this thing. Maybe it's the Tooth Fairy herself making minuscule deals with children actually. You give me your teeth, you get some power symbolized by money. That's all possible. As a tribute, of course, your character would have to bring regular amounts of teeth. After combat with some bandits, better take out the pliers and start ripping out those teeth. You've slain some elusive creature, knock out its teeth and sacrifice him to your Tooth Fairy patron. She'll be exceptionally glad with you as her subordinate and might grant you some greater powers. The Archfey type actually grants you a few spells that go really well with this idea. At level 1, namely, you already gain the sleep spell, which really weaves into the myth of the Tooth Fairy only coming when people are asleep. So you put them asleep and then you just knock their teeth out. Fairy Fire also going to help you knock people's teeth out even easier by giving everybody advantage. But then there's also stuff like Calm Emotions, which for some reason, Dominate Person at the end as well, for some reason makes this sound like a dentist visit. You cast Calm Emotions or Hold Person, Dominate Person on someone so they're all nice and calm, and then you just start knocking out their teeth. It works. Obviously, there might be a question, what is the Tooth Fairy's ulterior motive. What is she doing with this teeth? Is she doing anything? You might also want to think about if there is a way to use teeth in your spells. Are there spells in there that you can make look like a bunch of teeth doing something? Maybe Shatter looks really like a bunch of fangs shattering all over the place, piercing people for quite a nice amount of thunder damage. Maybe if you're causing fear to manifest in someone's brain, you create the idea of a giant maw with multiple lines of teeth trying to gnaw at them. There's a lot of teeth themed, well, this is annoying, teeth themed things you can do actually. And don't forget, whenever somebody doesn't take your patron seriously, just, you know, show them how it works. Impress them. It's going to be great. There you go. I've given you the usual 3 alternate takes on the class. There's loads more options. For example, you could be a Doom Prophet whose predictions come true on the spot. Also a great old one, Warlock, of course, predicting the moves his Demon Master is going to make and then they actually happen. You could be a Hexblade Warlock and maybe the soul of your loved one is trapped into the weapon, and by fulfilling the weapon's wishes you can actually free them and resurrect them. Also a nice quest. And there is, of course, in the books already the Celestial Warlock, a Warlock who RP-wise basically plays like a paladin or maybe a cleric, but is a full-fledged warlock with a really nice spellist as well. So, have a look at all of the warlocks that I gave you. Tell me about your warlock in the comments down below if you want to, and then we'll see each other again next time in the Attic Dungeon.